All right. So often I'm asked, what kind of doctor are you? And the answer is I'm a Gecko Doctor. So I actually did my PhD in nanofabrication and microfabrication, mimicking the gecko. So study how the gecko's adhesive system works, and then go in at the micro-nanoscale and mimic it. So these are little SEMs, scanning electron microscopy slides, showing the gecko on one side, and then what I fabricated in the clean room. And so I was the first person to make a gecko mimetic adhesive that you could turn on and off electronically. But this isn't all I was doing while I was in grad school. I was also working on some other projects. This is my car. One day we decided to cut the roof off of the car and then outfit it with 8 fire cannons, computer control, a couple 100 pounds of propane in the back so that we could do this. This is completely legal, of course, on the streets of Santa Barbara. My little pyrotechnics display. Oh, there's audio. Do you want to see it with audio? All right. So now I do a TV show called Outrageous Acts of Science. We're going into our 6th or 7th season now. It was the top Science Channel show for a couple years. I think we have, as Outrageous Acts of Science and on Discovery International, we're up to 200 million viewers worldwide. So it's a fairly popular show, and what we do on the show is we find people kind of like me that build really crazy things, like this car that can break and then roll, and then we explain to you how the science and engineering behind it works. So it's both entertainment, but it's also educating the public on science. And so I have this really fun job where I get to travel around and I get to see what people are doing. This is a show I did for Discovery, and this was shot all in VR. So 360 video. And it was called originally The Potentialist, but because of copyright reasons, they had to change the name to Innovative Design, and dropping into some of the coolest workshops in the San Francisco Bay Area and showing what people do. I've learned that building things myself takes a long time. So it's actually faster to just go see the cool stuff that other people have made. And so I have my own online discovery show called In the Making, where basically I get to do whatever I want, traveling around the world, finding really cool new innovation technology, and then showing people it. So here's a couple examples. This is a VR dream flight simulator. So you fly in this thing, you put a VR headset in, and then you can fly around controlling it with your body. This is similar but different. This is flyboarding. So this is basically a jetpack that shoots out of your feet and you get to fly around. That is not me, by the way. I wish it was. I got like 2 feet off of the water and I'm like, ah! I'm like 30 feet in the air. They're like, dude, you're barely out of the water. I'm like, okay. Drones are popular these days. This is a drone on a leash that you can take for a walk. Kind of cool. This is a drone that they hit me in the head with to show me how safe it was. And this is a drone that they use for mapping the Matterhorn. So an autonomous drone that goes up and flies around, and the camera takes pictures, and then they turn that into a topographical map. There's some things a little controversial. I did an episode on a 3D printed gun. This is actually made out of metal, and I actually got out there, and they had me shoot it. I hit the target. Good. I didn't hit myself. 3D printing is huge. This is a 3D printed cast. Remember the old days when you'd break a bone and they'd write on the cast? All your friends would write on it? Well, now they can just tweet it, and then they can 3D print whatever you tweeted into the cast. This is the Hashcast. Pretty clever. You can even 3D print in space now. This is a company that's 3D printing in space. Or you can 3D print a Martian simulator. So this simulates the environment on Mars so that you can try to terraform Mars. So you at home could print this out, and then you can try to grow things inside a Martian environment. And of course, you can also control a cockroach with your iPhone. I have no idea what that has to do with anything, but it's really cool. I'm into biomimetics, so mimicking biology, right? So the cockroach is cool. Intel did these spider bots. They have 6 legs. I don't know why they call them spider bots, but they're really cool. They were super popular. And then Intel called me one day, and they're like, hey, we made these spider bots, and everyone really likes them, but we're Intel. We don't make big things. We make small things. Can you help us out? I said, sure. what do you need? We want a human-sized spider bot to go out on stage with our CEO during the finale of his keynote. I'm like, sounds great. When? In 2 months. I'm like, you guys are out of your mind. So we went out and we built Big Mama. And Big Mama not only walked out on stage and danced, but Big Mama had an extra mode where Big Mama could transform and then, of course, rollerblade. So here she is rollerblading out to greet the CEO during his keynote. At one point, the night before during rehearsals, we lost control of the robot. And it was just skating along, and I knew we didn't have control, and literally going right off the edge of the stage, right by the CEO, and I literally had to dive, hit the emergency off button, and catch the robot. And I'm looking up at the CEO, and he's like, this isn't going to be a problem, is it? I'm like, no, this is fine. Of course, there's people that build bigger spider robots. These are my friends in Nantes, France. So they made this beautiful robot that walked through the streets of Nantes. Of course, they also do the giant elephant. This thing is completely wood on the outside, and then it has the ability to transport people around, and is quite the tourist destination now. So I like seeing what other people are doing. I also like building things. And so right out of grad school, Discovery Channel gave me a show called Prototype This, and we built up a team of 4 people, and our whole mandate was basically invent things that everyone wants, no one's ever seen before, and are really spectacular. And so we set out first kind of finding things that people really needed. And so in San Francisco, bike theft is a huge problem, so we wanted to make the unstealable bike. So this may look like an ordinary bike, but it's outfitted with a few little extras.
The steering locks, the rear brake triggers, and Tim's shoes are taken prisoner.
Oh, our poor stunt guy. That's Tim. And even when we were coming up with the idea of the show, we're like, wait, we're going to build these really dangerous, crazy things. Who's going to test it? And I'm like, oh, I don't want to do it. And we're like, oh, we'll have that guy standing in the corner of the shop eating a hamburger. We'll call him Tim. We're like, hey, Tim, you want to try this? Oh, sure, guys. And so our stunt guy showed up for the first time, and he showed up, and I'm like, hey, I'm Mike. He's like, hey, I'm Tim. I'm like, it's actually Tim. Poor Tim. We did a lot to Tim. This is a safety device, as you can see by the look in Tim's eyes. And the idea is that if you're working on your house or anywhere high, you can wear this, and we call it the personal airbag. And if you fall, it'll inflate around you, and it'll protect you. And we went through a few different iterations of trying different ideas of what we could use to do this. We started out thinking maybe we'll use a car airbag.
3, 2, 1.
We decided that was a bad idea. So we ended up with more of an idea of where you could have these cylinders that would inflate an airbag. But of course, we had to test it from a little bit higher up. And so
3, 2, 1.
that was the first time we ever tested it, and it worked. Now, the second time, it didn't go so well. This is something we affectionately call the poo bot. Does anyone own a dog? So this is it sits in your yard, and when your dog goes out, it has a thermal imaging camera, so it autonomously goes over and picks up after your dog, and then throws it into that hoop where there's a bag there, or if you don't like your neighbor, you can program it to throw it over your neighbor's fence. This is a 6-legged vehicle that you can drive, so it kind of mimics the cockroach. Love this vehicle. It was the one project that just didn't end up working, but we learned a lot from it. And if you think the fact that we built this in 4 weeks, from scratch, carbon fiber legs, welded the whole frame, this is breakneck innovation and prototyping. This project we did where we made paddles, like my PhD work, mimicking the Gecko, so you could climb up a brick building. And it actually worked really well. Those are the ones for brick. Then we built paddles that were for climbing glass, and they were a little too cumbersome for our stunt climber, as you can see. And so we had this philosophy that it's all right to fail. And this is actually what I wore around during my PhD, that failure is okay because failure is how you're testing the limits and how you're learning. And so we don't see failure as a bad thing at all. Even when my co-host Terry tells me that I don't know anything from my PhD in gecko memetics, and he has a better idea. And while this may not look like a good idea, it turned out to be one of the best ideas ever.
Hey, anybody?
I've got a great idea for a film. This is like a dramatic at its best.
All right, last one.
I'm pretty sure.
Oh, poor Terry. Anyone recognize this? This is the Google self-driving car before Google bought it. So this is the original one. We got our hands on it for the show, and we used it for the most important thing you could imagine an engineer using a self-driving car for, to deliver a pizza. It wasn't the first thing we tried. We did a lot of experimenting with pizzas, rocket launching sleds, centripetal throwers. We just tried throwing the pizza. We dressed up Zaz like a robot and had him deliver the pizza. We used parachutes to throw the pizzas. We parachuted them out of blimps. Then we realized we needed a bigger blimp, so we used the Goodyear blimp to throw the pizza out of it. We finally got a Segway. We made it look like Luigi. Luigi would drive around San Francisco on the Segway delivering pizzas. And then ultimately, we used the Prius autonomous car, drove over the San Francisco Bay Bridge without anyone in the car. Now, all the videos you see with Google, someone's in the car. There's a reason for that, just in case. We didn't have anyone in the car. We probably should have, because the car crashed. But, that's all right. We're okay with crashing. Things don't always work out the way you plan them, Yeah, that's my leg, some hardware in there. But even when you have a failure like this, it's important to look for, what's the upside here? And I realized that the current way of making a cast just sucked. And so I went out and I 3D scanned my leg, and then designed and built a 3D printed cast, which is really cool. I could take it off at night. I could move my ankle around. I basically had no recovery time after this. I even had to chase my friend's dog wearing it. But I thought, well, maybe we can do a little bit more. And so he started to outfit it with some sensors, pressure sensors in it. As soon as you do that, you need to have a little processor in it. If you have a processor, you might as well put in some accelerometers, gyrometers, magnetometers, so you can track the movement of your leg. You got all that data, and now you need to get it somewhere. And so if you're going to do that, you need to have an app so that your cast talks to your app. Then, of course, you're going to get up to the cloud. This is all really cool, but you're at a party, and you're trying to tell someone this. They're like, I don't get it. So you put LEDs in it, and you turn it into a lighting show, and then ultimately built a Bluetooth sound system into it. That leg got really strong. So this is the Boomcast, and I like these projects that you just kind of do for whatever reason. This was another project where I just decided to take my truck and cut it up and turn it into a Viking ship. This is the first Viking ship. This is when I first broke the world speed record for a Viking ship at about 95 miles an hour. This was the next ship that I broke that speed record in. It was on the German Autobahn, where I went 120 miles an hour in a Viking ship. Although in the first one, you can see here, as I was breaking the record, I'm going on the freeway and it's starting to just kind of almost float. And I'm just like, wow, this is amazing. And I look over and there's a police officer driving right next to me. And I'm like, and he's looking at me going, we do that for a few minutes, and then he just drives off. He probably realized I had a flamethrower on the front of it, so don't mess with that guy. You may have guessed, some of you, this was actually for an event out in the middle of the desert called Burning Man. So this is where we go out to the desert and we build a city of, it's up to 80,000 people now. We go out and we build it, and we do all sorts of interesting projects there. One project I did was taking shipping containers and converting them into an innovation lab. So in one shipping container, you would walk in and we'd do a full 3D body scan of you. And then you go into the next shipping container and we'd 3D print up a little figurine of you. Now, the 3D printing takes a while, and it's not fair to make someone wait inside the shipping container for 8 hours. So then we would give them a GPS transponder so they could leave, and when their print was ready, we would load it onto a drone, and the drone would then autonomously fly out and deliver it to you. Pretty good project. We did this in 2012, well before most of the drones were happening. One beautiful thing about Burning Man, though, is you saw the event before. This is after the event. So this is where a city of 80,000 people is built. And this is about 5 months later. There's absolutely no trace that 80,000 people were there and built an entire city. It just disappears. And that's what it looks like during the event. And to me, this is really interesting because this is a prototype city. Every year, you go out, you build a city, and then you take it down, and then you think about it for a year, and you go out and you build it again. And people get really enthusiastic, really excited about what is it that we want to have inside of our city? What is the culture? What is the technology? What are the sustainability? How do we generate power? Do we use solar? Do we use wind? Do we take trash and convert it into energy? What do we do with it? And this has become interesting for us now as we look at a world where we're rapidly urbanizing. So over the next 30 years, 2 million people are going to move to cities per week. That's a lot of people. And so how do we handle it? So I'm working with a group in China who has developed an ability to build buildings very quickly. This is J57. So this is a 57-story tall building that they built in 19 days. 19. 57 stories they built in 19 days. So they prefabricate it in the factory, and then they take it out and they assemble it. And not only that, it uses less than 1% building construction waste. It's very efficient. It's pre-wired. It's an amazing building. But when you look at this, how do you create this inside that building? How do you create the culture where people are dying to go to it? People love Burning Man. They love being there. How do you take this and then put it into a building? And so we're working with them, and they've just announced the Sky City Challenge. So they have 17 atriums inside of this building. And so they're going to have 17 different teams come in and given a very healthy budget to come in and create what it is that you want to have in your city of the future. And I don't know about you, but I have a few of my own ideas. For example, I was just thinking maybe it'd be nice to... Anyone know what this is? No? This clearly is a water slide simulator. So you sit in the bottom of this, and the entire thing turns, right, and goes up and down and side to side. And you literally go to a computer beforehand, and you can draw out your dream water slide ride, and then a computer takes that, crunches exactly how this thing needs to spin, move up and down, to put you on the exact same particle path that you'd be going down on that simulated water slide. And unlike a normal water slide, this thing can go on forever. It's the perpetual water slide. So I'll leave you with just a little video because I've gone over my time, but I don't like answering questions, so that's part of the reason why.
Starts down the virtual path, and as the simulator tilts and whirls, he's loving every minute of it.
Sounds like he's having fun. Yeah.
The simulator programming puts him through a series of 10 360-degree turns on a ride that lasts a full 3 minutes. Over 10 times as long as a traditional water slide.
Oh, he's just having a good old time in there.
And as the simulator completes its maiden voyage, Joe emerges unscathed, the inaugural rider of a thrillingly successful prototype.
It felt like the longest, fastest, craziest water slide ever.
All right, thank you very much.
Not so fast. You are going to ask a few questions. Does anybody from the audience have a question for Mike? Please.
Amazing, insightful, and very enlightening.
Would you mind speaking into the microphone, and would you mind giving us your name,
Mike.
please?
My name is Renee, and this is so insightful, and it tells people it's okay to fail, so please go and fail. My question is, how do you get funded for all these projects? I mean, all these crazy things must cost, you know.
Well, you know, with the Discovery shows, there's TV exposure for the partners that are on the show. And so we've gotten really good at showing the value that that creates for them. And oftentimes these companies can't do projects like this. They can't push the envelope and the limits of what their technology can do because they have to worry about their brand. But they can give it to someone like me, and I can create something really wild and crazy that is slightly distanced from them, but it gives them great exposure. So it gets people thinking more creatively on what they can do with their technology.
Great. I think we have time for one more question. Well, I've got one for you. If you could create any story or technology, what would it be?
I'm really interested in kind of the technology of this planet. You know, there's a term that Buckminster Fuller came up with called Spaceship Earth. We are on the most sophisticated piece of technology in the universe that we have been able to find. We have all these living, breathing systems. They work for us. They provide us with food. They provide us with oxygen. They give us water. And this in itself is a piece of technology. And I want to create a story around that so that people start to understand that we are all astronauts on a spaceship traveling together, and we need to take really good care of our spaceship instead of destroying it, because it's the only one we got.
That's right. Well, thank you. We're going to leave you with that thought. That was really fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you.